What's going on, everybody? Zachary Smith back here with another video. First of a series that I'm going to be kicking off here, where I'm going to do one free agent for every team in the NFL that I think will make them a better football team in 2023. This is an outside edition, so the free agents that they currently have on their roster, obviously, there's some guys that they would like to bring back. We are not worrying about that in this scenario. So what we're going to do is go through every team in the NFL. We're going to add one free agent, but we're going to do it by division. So we're going to kick it off with the worst division in football last year, and maybe for a few years here in the future, as one of these teams try to find out who's going to be the one to take over, and that's the NFC South. Last year, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning that division at 8-9, they get bounced in the first round, and then you got 3 7-10 football teams following them up. So I want to go worst to first for this little project I'm going to be putting together in this video and in the next few until we go through every division in football. But in this scenario, like I said, 3 7-10 football teams. I'm just going to go how they show at the standings. So that means we're kicking it off with the Atlanta Falcons. When I look at the Atlanta Falcons and what they have, they need everything. That, to put it bluntly, they are the one team in the division that does have the cap space to address a lot of their offseason needs here. And these other teams are going to create space, how the salary cap works. And everybody obviously getting that 16 million with the bump up in terms of what the salary cap went up. But when I take a look at the Atlanta Falcons, the first thing that I notice is the offensive line. That's where I would be looking. You obviously, I don't know if you have your long-term answer at quarterback there in Desmond Ridder, but you need to protect whoever that is going to be. You got Caleb McGarry, who played really well as a free agent. But they didn't pick up his fifth-year option, so now he is hitting the open market, coming off probably his best year. Are they going to re-sign him? I think that would probably be the wise move to do, especially when you have that money to spend. Then I look at the interior. Elijah Wilkinson at left guard, I guess he was there. That's all I can really say about it. He filled in admirably, I guess. I don't know that he was expected to be the guy. I don't know that he's the long-term solution there. Is Jalen Mayfield going to get another shot? I don't know. I mean, they invested a third-round pick in him. He obviously hasn't been the answer to this point for them, and I think that they're going to invest in this in free agency. So that's what I'm going to give them. And for me, here we go. It's going to be Isaac Seumalo. Look at this beautiful man. He is going to come in and help this Atlanta Falcons offensive line right away. And the best thing about him is he plays both guard spots. He can play center. He can play any of those interior spots for you. And if you're the Atlanta Falcons, I think that you're really going to covet that. He very well could be coming off a Super Bowl as well. He allowed 1 sack, 17 pressures this season. Actually, he had his career worst beat percentage this season. So very interesting. But I think that when you look at this interior offensive guard free agent class, he's going to be as good as it gets there. I think the Atlanta Falcons are going to prioritize that in free agency and look to the draft to address a lot of their other needs. So yeah, they get Isaac Seumalo, who again very well could be coming off of a Super Bowl championship at this point and could cash out in free agency. Moving on next, we're going to take a look at the New Orleans Saints. I mean, you talk about teams that have been up against the cap. They do it every single year. They're in the negative. They obviously get where they need to be by the time that they have to be to be cap compliant. But a lot of change there. And actually, as of the time of recording this, just hired a new defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, bringing him over after let go in Cleveland. Not a fan of that move, just on a personal level, personal opinion. But we're not here to talk about that. When I take a look at the Saints, again, a lot of needs on this team. I mean, they don't have a single defensive tackle under contract next season. Obviously, some of those guys, I think they will re-sign back. I look at the receiver room, though. So many questions with Michael Thomas, as there have been for a few seasons. Is he going to be back? Even if he is back, can you really count on him to be healthy? Obviously, Chris Olave, fantastic rookie season that you can build on. But you need another guy in that room, and I take a look at what they're lacking. How about a guy like Alan Lazard being added to that room, who I don't think is going to be back in Green Bay, has pretty much said his goodbyes there. At 6'5", he would easily be their biggest target for whoever the quarterback might be. I think very much players, as I'm going to bring his name up a couple times, I think, in this video, for a Derek Carr, who is very clearly on his way out of Vegas. I think he would make a lot of sense reuniting with Dennis Allen. And now, Joe Wood spent time with the Raiders as well, along with Dennis Allen when he was there. So those two are obviously very familiar with Derek Carr. I think he very much could be a New Orleans Saint next season. I think they're very much in play. And get him, Alan Lazard, a nice security blanket coming off a season with 56 catches for 747 yards. Obviously has some drop issues. I think there's a reason he's not going to be back in Green Bay, but as a security blanket, bringing that 6'5" frame, something that right now the New Orleans Saints are lacking. I think he actually makes a ton of sense to add to that offense when you look at what the rest of that receiver room just doesn't bring to the table. They need somebody else there. They could invest in the draft again, but they gave up so much draft capital to move up for Chris Olave. Are they going to do that again for another, receiver? Could they wait in the draft and maybe draft one in the middle rounds to add to a room and also Allen Lazard? I think that is the route that makes way more sense for that team when I look at it right now. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to add Allen Lazard, and I think that that just makes a ton of sense. So let's take a look at. That's not him. There he is. There's Allen Lazard. And I think it's going to be, if Saints fans get a hold of this video, I'm curious as to what their thoughts are going to be. I actually have a friend that covers the Saints, so I'm going to reach out and see what he thinks about this fit. But yeah, it popped off to me right away. Moving on here, this is actually one of my favorite fits of the entire exercise as I was going through here. Now we're on to the Carolina Panthers. I look at what they need. Again, I think quarterback is what everybody's getting jumped to right away. Could they be players for Derek Carr? Sure. I don't think investing a third-round pick last year in Matt Corral means he's going to be the guy. Do they roll with Sam Darnold for another season after what he kind of showed down the stretch? I think that's potentially the case. I don't know what they do at quarterback. I'm not going to give them a quarterback in free agency right now. What I am going to give them is a guy that can kind of stretch the seams, be a security blanket over the middle, and was kind of underutilized for as good as Mike McDaniel was for the Miami Dolphins offense. Not finding a way to use this guy, Mike Gesicki, was very interesting to me. So he is going to be the guy that I add to the Carolina Panthers this offseason. And coming off of a 2021 season, I think if he were to not get the franchise tag, it would have been a free agent last year. I mean, 73 for 780 in 2021. And I think that he did have a case to be paid as a receiver. Doesn't do much inline blocking, but if you just look at him as a slot weapon, I think he's very good. And hopefully he just doesn't try to do this gritty anymore in 2023, 2024, now in Carolina. But I think this is one of my favorite fits. Again, don't know who the long-term answer there is at quarterback, but I think Mike Gesicki is going to help whoever that is at quarterback for next season. And if it's not Sam Darnold after that, if they wait till 2024 to bring in a rookie or something like that, obviously a brand new coaching staff. I think Frank Reich was a great hire. Really like the defensive coordinator hire as well. I think they're doing a lot of good things in Carolina. Obviously, Tepper's willing to spend. What do they do at quarterback now? Is it Sam Darnold? Is it somebody else? I don't know. Mike Gesicki really going to help out whoever that quarterback is. All right, and finally, that brings us to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the division last year at 8-9. Tom Brady retires. Not in a great cap situation as it looks like right now. A ton of free agents when you talk about Levante David, when you talk about Jamel Dean, Nunez Roches. There's a ton of guys that are free agents for the Buccaneers. Julio Jones, Akeem Hicks, Sean Bunting is a free agent. Keanu Neal's a free agent. Carl Nassib, Logan Ryan, Mike Edwards, so I mean, we could go up and down the list here. A ton of free agents for Tampa, not a great cap situation. So I look at them and too as well. Shaq Barrett, 30 years old, coming off that torn Achilles. Is he going to be ready for the start of the season? I'm not so sure. So I think when you look at that pass rush, they need something there, and it can't be all that expensive with the way things are looking there. So what they're going to do, Samson Ebukam, 73 pressures in the last 2 seasons, 9.5 sacks over that span as well. What I like about him is he can be a 3-4 D end or a 3-4 outside linebacker. He can give you something in multiple defensive fronts. And I think that going the budget route here is probably what they're going to have to do. I don't think that he's going to be a guy that necessarily cashes out in free agency. I think he can do okay for himself. But I also don't think that Tampa Bay is going to be looking to, throw a bunch of money at a pass rusher right now. I mean, that you want to keep developing there. Obviously, some of the young draft capital that they've spent. But Samson Ebukam can come in and help him right away as you hopefully get Shaq Barrett back from injury at some point. And obviously then at that point can be a rotational pass rusher for you. I think he can do okay for himself again, but I don't think he's necessarily a guy that's going to break the bank, and Tampa Bay is going to covet that. I think they're going to covet his versatility to play in multiple defensive fronts, and then you figure out, that secondary maybe through the draft or other ways. But this this situation is not great for Tampa. Obviously, Tom Brady's retirement leaves them in a little bit of a crunch, but they had to have known that that was a possibility. They got what they wanted out of it in the Super Bowl, but yeah. So that will do it for this. Again, that was the NFC South. One free agent for every team, one outside free agent addition for every team. We're going to keep working through and doing this one by one in terms of the divisions. And would love your guys' feedback. Again, I don't expect everybody to agree with me. I love the back and forth. So if your team is one of these football teams and you think that there's a better outside addition, obviously taking into consideration the financial constraints of the team as well, let me know. I'll be interested to see what you guys have, and I love the feedback and I love the input. So other than that, that will do it for this video. If you aren't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave me a like, comment down below something else you would want to see. This is, again, going to be more of a variety channel as opposed to my work over at Around the 412. And so I thank you again for doing so, and we'll talk to you next time.